All right, thanks everyone for joining us again. We are joined by Flames General Manager Brad Treliving. We are open for questions at this time. We will start with Ryan Pike.
Hey, Brad. I guess just generally, are you able to sort of walk us through the additions you made to your clubs during the last day or so?
Yeah, so I guess even going back a few weeks.
Tree, you're on mute there.
How do we unmute it? Hello, can you hear me? Put your thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yeah, we got you now.
We're back. So a couple of weeks ago, we made a deal with Seattle for Tyler Pitlick. Certainly one of the areas that we were looking at in our roster is the right wing position. Tyler is a two-position player, can play right wing, can play in the middle, can play up and down the lineup. Obviously got in today and into free agency. And prior to free agency, we made a trade with Chicago, adding Nikita Zadorov. Big left shot defenseman, able to play both left and right. Nikita's been in the league for a while. He came in as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old player, just now 25. So we think he's just coming into his own right now. And then we got into free agency. We're able to secure a deal with Blake Coleman. Blake is just recently off his second Stanley Cup with Tampa. A lot of things attracted us to Blake, obviously. In left shot, but really his primary position has been the right side, can play all three, can play both wings, has played a little bit in the center, not as much as the wings, but probably most comfortable in the right wing, but versatile, can play all three forward positions. Then we signed Trevor Lewis. Trevor most recently was with Winnipeg. Has a history in terms of playing with Darryl. Back to his days in LA and won 2 cups there. Again, theme here, a right shot. Has some versatility. It has been a while since he's played the middle, but for the most part, a penalty killing, defensive type player. Right shot, comes with great leadership qualities. I think he'll be an excellent addition in our room. And then finally, we just in the past hour or so completed a trade with Boston and acquired goaltender Dan Vladar. Dan's a goaltender that we've been tracking for some time. Jordan Siglet in our goaltending department have followed him closely, going back to his time in Czech. Has been a top goaltender in the American Hockey League. And we were able to complete that transaction for a 3rd-round pick here today. So hopefully I'm not leaving anything out. We do have some depth signings that are in the queue right now, and we'll get to those here probably later here today, shortly.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go to Eric Francis next.
Brad, you use the word theme, and another theme is that these all seem to be like Daryl Sutter type players. Safe to say that you work pretty closely with Daryl on all these moves?
Well, yeah, you always work closely with your coach in terms of, we've been going at this for a couple of months here since our season ended and looking at ways that we can improve our roster. And, the very responsible players. I think Blake, Blake was a highly sought after player. Again, some of his stuff doesn't show up in all the. He plays in the trenches, this guy, but I think his skill is very understated. He's got an ability to play, as I said, several positions. And as we've seen even most recently, but even really over the course of his career, and big moments, Blake is a guy who's trusted by his team, by his coaches. Wherever he's been a big minute eater, plays against top lines, and able to produce offense. So I think he's a very versatile player, and it does stick with the theme, Eric. These players are all players that we think obviously they'll fit into a system that Darryl likes to play. In some cases, there's a history when you talk about Trevor Lewis. But certainly talking with Daryl throughout this process and getting his input. Some of these players he doesn't see as closely, but I think time will tell. But we think all of these players thus far, and as we move forward, will be a good fit for us.
Like, is Blake penciled in on the second line or third? I know you're going to say we're going to leave that to the coach and everything be sorted out, but you must have an idea in your mind. Is he a second line player in your mind?
We're going to leave that to the coach, but no, we talked a lot about that. I mean, I think Blake he's going to get an opportunity. I think it's been well documented here that we've struggled to find fits on our right side, and like I said, although he's a left shot, he's very comfortable over there. We looked at a bunch of combinations, with a bunch of different players as you're going through this process, and not knowing exactly where everything's going to fall out. But certainly Blake is a guy that we feel can play up in your lineup. You really look at his time in Tampa, and I know we all want to put numbers on first, second, and third lines, but that line that he played on there was, you can number it however you want, but they had the second most ice time in terms of their lines. They get the heavy match. They produced offensively. I think he's a top penalty killer in the league. So we're certainly going to find some ice with him and ice for him, and I think it'll be a great fit with Daryl and the rest of our group. Is
Danny Blader your backup this year, or you still got some work to do there?
No, we think Danny's ready to take that step. I mean, we obviously a situation and I've been talking to Boston for a while now, and obviously getting into the market today and see how things sort of unfolded. But we think Dan's ready to take that step. He's a big man, 6'5", athletic. Had some time in Boston last year. And then obviously in their situation when they signed the goaltender here today, Dan has now reached the stage where he requires waivers. They've got another young goaltender in Boston that's come in there. So, it was an opportunity for us to grab somebody we think has got a real bright future. Certainly there's more development there. But time will tell, but we certainly think that he's ready to take that step and would be a great fit with Jacob.
And sorry, last question, but is Zadorov, the obvious thing everyone's going to ask, is that the guy who's replacing Mark Giordano? I know you can't replace Mark Giordano, but is Zadorov the depth signing, or you still got some work to do in terms of signing a top four defenseman?
Well, I think there's still, as I talk about all the time, Eric, today is a day that you can get started on some of these things, but you're never done. Our blue line, Zadorov's not coming in to replace Mark Giordano. What we look at here is with the people that we do have, who can complement, a partner, and who brings a certain element that we think can complement a guy. So Nikita's a guy who's a big body. He moves very well. Can defend space, rangy, moves pucks. And he's got an element to him. He's got a physical element to him. He's an imposing guy. And I think as time has gone on in his career, and I talked a lot to Nikita today and watching him over his career, just settling him down a little bit, that comes with maturity, that comes with everything else, but sort of quieting his game down a little bit in terms of some of his decisions. But we think like I said, we still think there's lots of upside with him. How it sorts out with partners, we still got some work to do to fill out our blue line, but I think you could see some guys moving around here right now. But there wasn't somebody out in the market, Eric, that you would say, okay, Mark's left, now we're going to go get this guy and replace all the role he's going to do. It's going to be by committee, and we think Z can pick up some of those minutes.
Okay, we'll go to Gemma next.
Brad, wondering if you can characterize what free agency was like today. What was the market like for you?
What was the market like? It was busy. It's normal. It was normal free agency. Things, the bell goes off, and you hope to have done your homework before and get an understanding that, at the end of the day, you prioritize what you want to do, and you try to get closure on things that you want to do. You're trying to feel out again where the market's going to go. Ultimately, do you have an opportunity to get the player? It's a busy time, but we were prepared. You know, obviously I'm making calls. We got, you know, our whole hockey operations staff in there: Don Maloney, Craig Conroy, Chris No, Brad Pascal, Mike Burke. Everybody's sort of got a to-do list to get in touch with. But it was active. I think, you know, one of the things, Jenna, was coming off last year where you're in a flat cap. Certainly, you know, I haven't seen all the signings. We're trying to keep up with them. We made a significant financial commitment to Blake. When you want to get a player at this time of the year, that's what it requires. I think sometimes, I know we want to get really good players, but we don't want to give them any term or give them any money, and that's hard to complete a deal that way. So you do your homework on the player that you're going to be investing in. We look at Blake as a guy who's, you know, he's turning 30 years old, but if you look at him, I think he's only had 5 full seasons in the league. We think there's low mileage here. You know, he played his college career, got into the league later, played some time in the American League, but you know, he's not sitting there pushing 1,000 games right now. So we think there's certainly lots left in the tank. Pursued him hard, and like I said, in order to get that player, you have to make a commitment, and that's not unlike, you know, any player in the market here. So it's been active. It'll continue to be. You're gonna see now, Jenna, that it'll probably have a little lull now. A lot of players are off the market, and then you continue on, whether that be seeing what's still out there, talking to other teams as they've made moves to see if the trade market may bear fruit. So, but it was a busy day, as it normally is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to Haley Salvia next.
Brad, just to maybe touch on a few of the UFA departures today, it seems like Derek Ryan and Josh Levo, among others, have signed with different teams. With a player like Ryan specifically, were there any meaningful conversations to keep him in Calgary?
Yeah, I talk with Derek a lot. You know, obviously talk with his representative, and talk with Derek personally, you know, today. Ultimately, the players have got, you know, they've got this. They're at that point now where you get to free agency. They've got that ability to look out there and see if there's a deal that best suits them and make that decision. So certainly, Derek was a guy that we had some interest in staying. We had those discussions, and ultimately he made a decision to move forward. You know, I think each player's got probably different circumstances, you know, not to go through them all. And in some cases, we've talked to players that maybe we want to move on from. And in some cases, players felt there might be a better fit for them elsewhere. Josh is one, you know, we talked to Josh shortly after the season. He expressed a desire to look elsewhere. So wish certainly all those players all the best. Derek was a really good player for us for 3 years. Brought him in as a free agent 3 years ago. You know, just a great guy, great family. Wish him and Bonnie all the very, very best. And so, yeah, but we had certainly been engaged with him for over the course of the last couple of days.
And I apologize because you did touch on this on draft night, but is there any update regarding a potential extension for Johnny Gaudreau?
No, we will. We don't have any new news to report today.
Okay, we'll go to Danny Austin next.
Thank you. Brad, when you were speaking with Eric, you sort of said that the last couple months have been spent trying to figure out how to improve this team. So I guess as it stands today with the moves that you guys have made, I mean, do you feel like on paper this is a better team than the team that you were icing most games this season?
Well, I think we're certainly improved in some areas, and there's still some work to be done, right? I know we all get through July 1st, or I guess it's not July 1st anymore, July whatever it is today, and you know, want to quickly say, okay, where's the team? You do most of your heavy lifting in the summer to build your roster. I think we've improved significantly in some areas. We certainly have some work to do in others. So the work doesn't end today, but I think, adding some of the pieces that we did today, I think will improve us certainly in some different areas. And the other thing to consider here too is as changes happen, it does open up opportunity for other players. Your growth as a team doesn't just come from the outside. We still have young players up front and on the blue line. We've added a young goaltender today that we think has got a lot of upside. So that internal growth is really, that's a big part of pushing forward. But, you look at the people we added today, I think they can fit specific roles for us. They're veteran players. And when you look at Blake, when you look at Trevor, they have 2 Stanley Cups each. And so there's some pedigree that's come into our locker room, but we're certainly not done with the work yet before we get to training camp.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go back to Ryan Pike.
Hey, Brad, couple quick ones for you. I guess a year ago, you had to engage in what you characterize as cap Cirque du Soleil because of the flat cap and the unique circumstances of the year. How do you feel about the cap wiggle room you have now after all these moves? I know you have RFAs left to resign, but projecting out sort of some signings, how do you feel about the breathing room you have left?
Well, that's all part of the process, right? You're managing that, with every move that you make of how does it impact your cap. One thing I feel good about, we've got lots of flexibility right now. We still have some of our own players to sign, but I think there's some, we've got some options depending which path, both us and the player want to go down. But, that's certainly not by coincidence that we've got some flexibility right now. And like I said, we've got lots of summer left in terms of finding now whether that be through free agency, whether that be through the trade market, how we continue to help our roster. But from a cap standpoint right now, we do, we feel very comfortable where we are, knowing that we still have some work to do with the roster.
And I guess from a depth standpoint, specific to your goaltending position, do you anticipate any further signings at the minor league level, or do you? I think you have Dustin Wolf and Tyler Parsons sort of projected as your AHL tandem. Would that be a tandem you feel comfortable going forward with for the season?
I would anticipate that we'll be adding to the goaltending depth chart and reserve list here shortly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to Slum next.
Hi, Brad. When it comes to these free agents, it's one thing about the money, but what's the process like selling a Blake Coleman or a Trevor Lewis on coming to Calgary? I know the money is one thing, but how do you convince them that this is the right fit or this is the right situation for them?
Well, it's, players are looking at all sorts of things, and certainly the contract is a piece of it, and it's a big piece of it. But depending on the length of the contract, they're making a commitment, for the next period of their life of where they're going to go live. In Blake's case, he's got a young family. He's got 2 young daughters. And he had lots of, I'm sure he's probably just sitting there in a little bit of a whirlwind tonight, because over the course of especially the last, whatever it's been, last few days, certainly as he's getting to this point and wondering what options are there going to be for him, and it becomes not just a hockey decision. You're looking at a life decision. So you're, in some cases moving, in a lot of cases, to a place you've never lived, and what's the market like, and you do a lot of talking about the team. Certainly, speak to the player. Daryl speaks to the player. Talk about the staff. Talk about sort of where you see the team. So it's you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you at that point with certain people, and they want to see what the fit is for them. Speak about how they could be used, but and the players, players that are coming up to free agency, they've been doing their homework for the last number of weeks too. So they got an idea of where there may be opportunities for them. Their agents have scoured the depth charts and see where there certainly is some openings. So it's a long process. You know, it's a long process in terms of, I think, a lot of it from the player side of just determining, you know, not only from a hockey playing standpoint, but a family standpoint where they want to live. And then, you know, you do a lot of question answering, and you know, once you start talking to the player. So it's a process for sure.
I saw that the New Jersey Devils like produced a pretty elaborate video, apparently kind of trying to sell free agents on then. Like, do the Flames do anything like that, or like how would that work?
Yeah, you try to get lots of stuff now, whether it be video of the organization, whether it be literature. You know, what I found is a lot of times the hockey world's a pretty small world when you get down to it. So you're finding who's connected to him. The biggest endorsement players usually turn to is, you know, people that they know that have played in an organization or played for a coach or played with certain teammates. So, you know, there's all sorts of mechanisms that we use to tell our story, but usually the players are always interested in firsthand knowledge, and that usually comes from people that have walked in their shoes and players that have been there. And I know, you know, this morning when I was speaking with, or this afternoon or this morning when I was speaking with Blake's agent, Brian Bartlett, you know, Blake had played with Derek Ryan at a World Championship, so he's reaching out to Derek to get his sense on, you know, the city and raising a young family there. So, you know, the players do a lot of their homework about where the options they have available to them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I don't see any further questions in the queue. Thanks very much for your time, Tree, and thank you, media, for joining us. That'll be it for today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Record.